Well, good morning. Welcome from the land of Antarctica, also known as Dallas, Texas, this week. If you are new to this broadcast, welcome. It's great to have you here. My name is Brene Harden, and I am an editor. I'm a writing coach. I love stories. I love helping people tell their stories and share their stories. And I also like to come together with you on Saturday mornings, have a cup of coffee, catch up, and celebrate some of the stories that are going on around us and talk about new stories that are coming, stories that are in the works, um, and just share a little bit about what's going on in my world. Hope you'll share a little bit about what's going on in yours while we're here live on this broadcast. Good morning to all of my friends who are watching live. Good morning, Savannah. How are you doing, my dear? Good to see you. And Miss Sherry, yes, in the land of Fargo, North Dakota. You know, when I complained about the cold down here, I think of you. I try not to have guilt. Um, but it's 24 degrees down here. And see, the thing about Texas is we're not built or wired for this kind of weather. If you all remember last year in Dallas, Texas, we had a pretty bad storm that locked us down for about a week. Several places around town went without power. I have not heard about power outages here. The only outages I've heard about are because of downed power lines due to the ice. But other than that, I think we're going to start melting today. I'm looking out my window right now. There are some icicles hanging on this side of the house. Of course, this is the side of the house that gets the sunlight later in the afternoon. So hopefully we're going to thaw out down here a little bit. But wherever you are, if you've been in the path of Winter Storm Landon, well, then you know what I'm talking about. Right, Milo? Yes. Milo has not been able to go outside at all because it's been so cold. I went to let him out a couple of days ago, and when I was like, "Are you sure you want to go out? Because it's 20 degrees outside, buddy." Nope, he wanted to try to go outside. And the minute I opened the door and he got that blast of cold air, I wished I could have videoed it because this cat took a few steps back, like, "Whoa!" And he did not want to go outside. You're glad we have power. Listen, I'm glad we have power. A lot of people in town, after what happened last year, they already started asking questions about, is our power grid going to hold? Everybody started praying, let the power grid hold. When these big storms come through like this, thank goodness we have meteorologists and people who study the weather to kind of give us a heads up. Are they 100% right? No, no, but they come pretty darn accurate to where these storms are going to come so that it gives us a little bit of heads up to, go raid the grocery stores and buy all the milk, bread, and eggs we can because we're going to, I don't know, make French toast or pancakes. If your power is out, can't really do a lot with milk, eggs, and bread, right? But anyway, we got to the store. I actually came home from Tennessee on Tuesday. So came home, and thank goodness I did, because as you probably have been keeping up with, maybe some of the stories, or maybe you get notifications from your weather apps about what the weather's been like. Thank goodness I got home when I did, because the storm came through here on Wednesday. And so I've been in the house, haven't really gone anywhere at all. I'm talking not even the store since I got home. So today will be nice enough where it's going to warm up. I do have some errands to run, and we do have to go to the grocery store because we're starting to run out of some of the essentials. But I hope wherever you are, you've stayed warm and snuggly. Maybe you have a snuggle bug to cuddle up to, like I do with Milo and my hubby. Or maybe you just got a nice warm fire going in the fireplace and you're snuggled up with your blanket. I hope you have a cup of coffee. Kick back for a few minutes and let's chat. I've got some fun things to share with you and to talk about. So I wanted to make sure we get off to a good start, right? Good morning, Kelly. How are you doing, my dear? Thanks for being here. Well, it is February. Did How about that? January just whoosh. remember those? Remember those New Year's resolutions we made? Remember those goals we had? How are you doing on your goals? I did a course at the end of the year with my business mentor, John Acuff, and really tracked time doing certain tasks. It was really great. And one of them was to write. And so, I'm an editor, so I work on words from other people. I'm editing books. I've been editing all week. I got home, and I mean, last 2 days, 3 days, I'm probably going to be working through the weekend. A lot of editing work, blessed to have it. Love helping people tell their stories and share their stories. And so I've been doing that. But I really tried to set aside time to do my own writing because I'm hoping to publish a book this year. I said it out loud. My goal is to publish my first book of my own writing on my birthday. Now, I'm aiming for that goal. I'm really hoping I can meet that goal, but there's a lot of work that has to take place in the months ahead. So I'm going to be telling you the stories of all my coffee mugs, my coffee cup collection. And if you've been following me for a while, you know my coffee cup collection is pretty big. And if I'm going to write a story about each mug, a story about how I got these mugs, where they came from, possibly who gave them to me, I'm going to tell the story behind each mug because when I go to my coffee cabinet with my mugs and I want to pick one out, I can look at the mug and tell you the story behind each one. So what I'm doing is I'm cataloging those stories now. Last I counted, I had 178 coffee mugs. Don't judge. Don't judge. Do you collect something? If you collect something, you probably have a lot of it. But over my years of travel, especially when my late husband was traveling on tour and we were able to travel all over the place. Souvenirs are hard to bring back in a suitcase. How many t-shirts can we own? But I have coffee mugs or Christmas ornaments. So coffee mugs or Christmas ornaments, because I'll use them and see them regularly. I see my Christmas ornaments every year, and it's great to unbox them and see all of the ornaments that all have a story behind them. And so do my mugs. So today's mug, you notice the theme is red because February is Heart Month. This is a National Heart Month. And so my broadcasts this month are all going to be talking about stories from the heart, stories about our heart, pondering about our heart, and doing things that makes our heart feel joyous and full, right? Because we can't really pour out of our cup if we don't have anything in our mug. So you are excited for me. Oh, well, thank you. Listen, I am too, Kelly. Authors get excited when they're writing their books. And then the real work starts. We have to diligently do it. And then you have to let someone see it to edit it. I'm not going to edit my own book. Why would I edit my own book? I need someone else to be the second set of eyes to really flesh that story out. So I've got so many great contacts in the industry. Which one of my friends do I pick, right? I already have the formatter and the graphic design person lined up. I'm going to be, hopefully collaborating with my daughter to do some of the graphic work for my book. But then I'm working with a wonderful formatter who I work with that helps a lot of my authors publish their books. So there's a process to this. So I've got to set aside time daily. And one of the things that I've done, there's an app that I use. And I really learned about this from doing John Acuff's course, working with some other people. I wanted to find an app to help me. So I have one. I don't know if you can see it on my phone right there. It's called Streaks. You see it? You see all my other apps, all my notifications. But that one, that orange S, it's called Streaks. And you can set yourself tasks. Here, let me do that. You can see them, right? And you set them every day and you get notifications of don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that. And one of my tasks is to write 100 words a day. This is helping me get the story started for each of my mugs as I sit down and I just knock out 100 words for that particular mug. It's not the entire story fleshed out, but it's 100 words of that story to get it started. Then I can go back and flesh them out a little bit, right? I don't intend for the stories to be lengthy. I want them to be concise yet powerful so that you understand why I have a memory behind each mug. So today's mug of the day is my red, of course, lion mug for Lion Coffee from Honolulu, Hawaii. And their slogan is more roar in every pour. Since 1864, they've been a coffee company in the Hawaiian Islands. So this is where I get my gold roast coffee, right? You can see it right there. And I get my Kona blend. Now, yes, it's decaf again. Stop judging. No judging. Okay. But after I went through chemotherapy in dealing with breast cancer, my doctor recommended that I eliminate caffeine from my diet, which has been very difficult because I love iced tea. I do enjoy an ice cold Coca-Cola now and then. So, but this is where I order my coffee from Hawaii. Yes, I do. Lion Coffee, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So that's where I get my coffee. And so today's mug, my red lion mug, celebrating Heart Month in red. But there's a story behind this mug, the Lion Coffee Company, where they how they started, where they are on the islands, the kinds of coffee that they raise, and they ship everywhere. So if you want to get some, I'll be throwing the links down in the broadcast later on in the comments section about how you can order some Lion Coffee yourself. So, as I always like to do on this broadcast, I love to celebrate great stories. And there have been a lot of stories going on this last week. Of course, one of them being the winter storm. And this was a doozy, guys. This one really, really stretched from Maine down to Texas, right? Hit about, a good portion of the country. So much so, I mean, the Love Field Airport here, where Southwest hubs, shut down. DFW Airport, if there were flights, man, there were only a few. They had to cancel so many flights coming in and out. The weather here was treacherous. And so that was a huge story this week, right? Affecting so many people in our country. So I hope wherever you were or are, you didn't, get affected too badly from the storm. If you did, tell me in the comments. I know Sherry was telling me the other day, Sherry was telling me the other day that in Fargo, North Dakota, it was 24 below. 24 below. I don't even know how to exist in that kind of weather. I just dig a hole in the ground and stay down there till it stopped. I'm an island girl. Yes, right? Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm an island girl, and I don't do well in cold weather. I've lived on the mainland now most of my life, and I still do not adjust well to cold weather. I am biologically predispositioned for a tropical setting where my toes are in the sand and I have some kind of cold, refreshing beverage, or perhaps a cup of coffee in my hand, right? That's the kind of weather that I enjoy. But if this is the worst part of it and we can come out of this, I was looking at the temperatures for Dallas's forecast here in the next week or two. Just let's kind of slowly get out of this. I know Puxatawny Phil on Groundhog Day saw his shadow, so we're supposed to have 6 more weeks of winter. Ugh. Okay. It means middle of March, guys. Middle of March. But you know what? It's okay. We'll get through it, right? Because time is marching on. So I love paying attention to stories. Another big story that's been going around that everybody has been talking about and covering, and it's just to where it's now, ad nauseum, is the whole Spotify Joe Rogan situation. Not going to say a lot other than, this is all new territory. Podcasts, all new territory. There's so many podcasts out there that people can listen to. Same way that people used to write and publish things and put them out there, right? How do we handle difficult conversations without crushing people's ability to express themselves? We have freedom of speech that and I think people take this a little too far because it's freedom of speech and that the government is not the government, the federal government is not uh, shall not crush free speech. Now, private businesses, platforms, publishing companies, record labels, certain ones won't carry certain things. Certain ones will carry certain things. How do we draw the line and how do we know the line on these things, right? Kelly, there's a coffee shop in Fargo called 20 Below that offers dollar coffee whenever they hit 20 below. See, I don't even want to get out though in 20 below weather. Doesn't that make your face hurt? Like, doesn't I, I stepped outside in 24-degree weather and I can tell you it's pretty intense. I can imagine, but that sounds great. Your complex didn't treat the parking lot, so you've not been out since Wednesday afternoon. Thankful for working from home and the attached garage of your apartment. Man, listen, Teresa. Teresa lives north of me, and yeah, well, girlfriend, and that's the thing. Some places don't have the resources to treat the roads and the ice. I know the big roads are here. My husband got out a little bit yesterday, but the local roads, you still have to be careful because a friend of my daughter's yesterday was also in an accident in Nashville on I-65 because she hit a patch of black ice. Got to be careful out there, right? Got to be careful out there. So, yeah, the coffee makes it more bearable. Yes, it does. It does. I was just joking, Kelly, you know that. But oh, my goodness, a warm mug of coffee does make it bearable. And people in North Dakota, again, you all are used to living in those conditions. We here down in the great state of Texas, where it's hot most of the time, we're not used to this kind of weather. And our state is not equipped the way the northern states are to handle this kind of weather. So when we get a storm like this, it just sets everybody on edge. If you would like to send down some of your guys and your snowplows, feel free. But yeah, this whole Spotify thing, right? And again, guys, my take on this. It is wonderful that we have these platforms to share our content, for me to be able to connect with you here live on my live stream. That's why we do this, right? You have the choice to decide who you're going to listen to, who you're going to take in information from, because what you take in is going to come out. What you are surrounding yourself with is going to be reflected in your life. Am I right? So that's all we'll say about that. But here's a story that was in the news last week. I don't know if you saw it. Warmed my heart. I love it when authors are willing to take chances and go big with their dreams. Because, how are you going to get them out there? How are you going to make those things happen if you don't take the first step? Well, I got to tell you, this story right here warmed my heart because I'm going to share it here on the screen. See if you can see it here. Okay. And sorry about the ads, guys. Ugh. But look, I loved this story. So little Mr. Dylan Helbig, a second grader from Idaho, wrote an 81-page book about his Christmas adventures. And now other children want to write stories. So here's what he did. He wrote this book. He took a college notebook journal, and he wrote and illustrated a book and went and sneaked it and put it on the shelf in his library, or library, as he calls it. I loved this. So he created a tale about Christmas and about time travel. It is now in high demand. I think the list of names when I saw it was over 2,000 people that were waitlisted to read his book. I wouldn't be surprised if this young man gets a publishing deal and a publishing house picks him up to offer a print version of his book. But during his Christmas break, okay, now this ought to inspire you. During his Christmas break, Dylan Helbig, an 8-year-old boy from Boise, Idaho, wrote a book that he wanted everyone to read. He had spent a long time on it, 4 days to be exact, and filled 81 pages of an empty journal with a richly illustrated tale about how he gets transported back in time after a star atop his Christmas tree explodes. But he did not have a book deal yet. When his grandmother took him to the Lake Hazel branch of the Ada Community Library in Boise at the end of December, he slipped the sole copy of his book onto a shelf containing fiction titles. Okay, I just want to pause because I just hugged him in my heart. 8 years old. Oh, let the children come to me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I had to sneak past the librarian, said Dylan, or who says library instead of library. So I had to sneak past the librarians. Over the next month, a series of circumstances made the book one of the library's most sought-after titles and also inspired children in Boise to write their own stories. The book, The Adventures of Dylan Helbig's Christmas by the author, Dylan himself, had drawn so much attention by the end of January that 56 people were on the waiting list to check it out, said Alex Hart, the manager of the library branch. If every person kept the book for 4 weeks, the maximum borrowing time, the last person on the list would have to wait more than 4 years to read Dylan's tale. I mean, this is great. I'll share the link to this, but he left the book on the library shelf. He came clean with his parents, and his mother called the library thinking that they could pick it up from the lost and found. She was like, because he said, Mom, I left my book at the library. And when he told her what happened, she called, of course, wouldn't you as the mom want to get your son's original hand-done version of his 81-page book that he wrote himself? She said, the librarians were so charmed by the book that they played along with his stint. It deserves a spot on our library shelves, Mr. Hartman said. It's a good story. The librarians entered the book in their catalog system, but left the publisher category blank. They also moved it out of the fiction section and set it alongside the graphic novels, since it has so many page-length illustrations. Okay, I'm going to get my hanky and better get ready to take a run around my house, because they placed him in the best category that his book fit, right? Isn't that fantastic? Here are some illustrations. I mean, look at this, you guys. I want to get on a plane, go to Boise, Idaho, and meet this little boy. Don't be surprised if you see more about his story pop up here in the coming weeks. As for the amount of spelling and grammar errors in the book, I would say they would be numerous, he said. For example, in chapter, with no E, 1, Dylan writes, one day in winter, it was Christmas, right? In his Christmas tale, Dylan, the protagonist and the author, goes on a time-traveling adventure after the star on the tree explodes. Santa comes, he said, explaining the next part of the plot. After that, Dylan comes across 5 trees, and one of them was like a tree portal. And the portal takes him back in time to the first Thanksgiving. I mean, imagine, this child's imagination is amazing. A date that he had to confirm with his mother. His imagination is just incredible, she said. Dylan has been writing comic-style books since he was 5, but this is certainly his most successful. The library gave him his first ever Houdini Award for the best young novelist, an award that they created just for him. Yeah, and then children have also told Mr. Hartman that they too want to write books for the library. A local author, Christiane Lane, has offered to work with Dylan to create a children's writing workshop at the local library branch. Oh, you guys, oh my goodness. I can we just take a moment to sip and salute Dylan and his Christmas book? He wrote it out over his Christmas break. Listen, guys, I am convicted. I'm working on my coffee cup story. This little boy wrote an 81-page story over his Christmas break and illustrated it. Oh, I love it. These kinds of stories make me so happy, fill my heart with joy. And it is National Heart Month, right? This is the month where we turn our focus to stories of the heart, and Valentine's is next weekend. But as I was thinking about the content for this show, first of all, I wanted to share with you, because I am of Hawaiian heritage, I want to share with you the Hawaiian word for heart. So this is your teaching moment on today's live stream. But the Hawaiian word for heart is pu'uvai. Remember, the W's are pronounced like V, so it's pu'uvai. And it's the heart, right? Our heart. With everything that we've been through in the last couple of years with the pandemic, um, our hearts have been heavy. We've had things that have stressed us out, things that have put a strain on our heart with relationships because of the political climate and things that go on around us that can be so upending. And sometimes our heart is stressed, we're overwhelmed, and that is the danger, because it is National Heart Month. In fact, the American Heart Association, this is one of their biggest fundraising months because the focus is put on the heart. And I was looking up some stats, and I found this really interesting because I did not know that, let's see, I'm going to close this here. I'm going to close that there. I did not know that 1 in 5 women die from heart disease. 1 in 5. 1 in 5. And so heart disease is a big problem. It's a big problem for men and women, but it's the number one killer of women over breast cancer is heart disease, right? So, of course, we know the steps that we need to take to strengthen our heart, right? We need to eat healthy meals. We need to get regular exercise, even on a cold day like this. I don't know, go to the mall and walk. Do something to get yourself some physical exercise, especially when the weather is inclement, because you need that exercise to keep your body strong, right? The physical side of it. We know the steps we need to take. Cookbooks out there that help us with healthy recipes. And if you've ever dealt with a health condition or had to amend your diet a little bit because of, sodium content or carbs because you are struggling with diabetes, anything like that, that diet is one way that we can really help heal our bodies. But more importantly, what I wanted to talk about a little bit this morning to protect our pu'uvai is what we do, what we take in, what we read, the stories that we surround ourselves with, and the people that we surround ourselves with, because it's so important. And so when I was thinking about that, I thought, well, the Bible tells us, and I've been thinking about this verse all week long. I've really been pondering it because, as a wordsmith, as a person who works with words, when I think about the simplicity of the words and what they say, what they mean, it helps me understand the message behind the words a little better. So I wanted to share with you, there we go. And you probably know this, but I was thinking about this and really pondering it this week. It has to do with the book that we're reading for our book club for February. But these words right here, above all else, Guard your heart, for everything that you do flows from it. I want you to think about that for a moment. Above all else. So, above all else, right? When you have a prepositional phrase that starts off a sentence, it's usually to either show you where it is, or in this case, show you its order of importance. Above all else. So, above everything else, guard your heart. Guard your heart. That's the main subject of the sentence. Guard your heart. Guard it. Protect it. For everything you do flows out of it. For everything that you do, everything you say, how you act, how you respond to things, how you treat other things and people. And when I say things, it could be, how I take care of my books, how I take care of my iPad, how I take care of my cat who's curled up sitting behind me, how I take care of my husband, my daughter, my son, the relationships in my life, my friends, my clients, how I treat myself, right? Everything you do flows from it. So so I like to take this kind of backwards a little bit, because if everything that we do flows from what's in our heart, then when I look at other people, what they do, what they say, and how they act flows out of what is in their heart. That's pretty eye-opening. That really lets me know what's inside, and what I'm only seeing is just the surface, right? What you're only seeing on this broadcast is just a segment, a little clip of what I'm like. But if you were to see me in person, hopefully you would know that I'm exactly, well, probably somehow these screens make you look a little better. Hopefully I'll look good in person when you meet me, if you ever get to see me in person. But if I were to sit down with you in person, I would hope that the kind of conversation that I'm having with you right now is the same kind of conversation I would have if we were together, right? That's authenticity. That's me consistently being who I am. Now, we also know people show us who they are, and it kind of makes us uncomfortable. But when we know that, we know the kinds of people that we want to surround ourselves with, the kinds of things we want to surround ourselves with, because if we guard our heart, we're going to make sure that the things that go in it and that's surrounding it are helpful, are healthy, and move us forward. In our dreams, like Dylan, what he wrote and what he shared with everybody in his book in the library flowed out of that precious heart and that imagination of that child. I think there's great potential there for that young man to be, and he's already writing his books. He's already making comics. The library placed him in the graphic novels. Imagine when that little boy gets to see, I could do something like this, right? Surrounding himself with people who will help him build and flourish and thrive so that he can pursue his dreams, right? Above all else, guard your heart. Now, this also means we've got to guard against things like unhealthy eating habits, unhealthy behavioral habits, right? Again, there's those components to it that we need to put together. But more importantly, it's really, really important to focus on how we settle our hearts as far as our inward self, our emotions, our mind, and how we guard those from getting too wonky. And sometimes that means turning certain things off, putting certain things down, right? And picking up things that are helpful and encouraging. One thing that I picked up and that I'm very excited about is that we are doing this in our book club. I have a book club. We read some great books. We have live discussions twice a month, and we go through these books. And so one of the books that I'm going to show you today, written by the same author, but if you've never followed Brene Brown, you should. She's been a part of all of this Spotify kerfluffle. I really appreciated her thoughtful and insightful response to the whole Spotify Joe Rogan thing, because her podcasts are exclusively on Spotify. She's a researcher. She has studied vulnerability and guilt and shame and those kinds of things dealing with the human psyche for the last 20 years. Her Dare to Lead podcast is great. Her Unlocking Us podcast is great. Dare to Lead is a great book. If you've never read Brene Brown's book, I would suggest you start there. And she also has a TED Talk, one of the most viewed TED Talks ever. And she was the first researcher to have a documentary made, which is on Netflix. So you can look those up and see them. But she's got a lot of cred, right, to talk about this. So her latest book is called Atlas of the Heart. I've already started reading it. Oh my goodness, it's fantastic. She, in this book, is going to take us on a journey of 87 of the emotions and experiences that define what it means to be human, to make those meaningful connections with others. How do we do that? So she's taking us through the emotions. And let me tell you, starting in chapter 1, boy, she didn't waste any time getting down to the nitty gritty, where she talked about this chapter is called, and the book is beautiful. It's laid out so beautifully with great illustrations. The font is bigger, so it doesn't take you as long to go through it. I'm already going through it and highlighting. I mean, the introduction itself is its own chapter. But number 1, places we go when things are uncertain or too much. Well, let's just get that one right out of the way, shall we? I mean, we've been living in uncertainty for the last 2 years with the pandemic, right? Everything around us changing from day to day. The stock market responding to it, the economy responding to it, the supply chain responding to it, people responding to it. And so in this chapter, she talks about the emotions of stress, overwhelm, anxiety, worry, avoidance, right? Excitement, dread, fear, and vulnerability. Boom! Right out of the chute. But what I appreciated in this chapter is she clearly defined and differentiated the difference between stress, overwhelm, and anxiety. Love it. She said stressed and is being in the weeds, overwhelm is being blown. She said it reminds me of 2 restaurant terms that I often use today, in the weeds and blown. Back in the day, if I walked into the kitchen and told another waiter, I'm in the weeds, the response would be, what do you need? If you've ever worked in the food service industry, or you've worked in any kind of industry where you say, I'm in the weeds, that's a term that automatically everyone knows what that means and knows how they're supposed to respond. What do you need? I might say, can you take bread to tables 2 and 4 and re-tea tables 3 and 5, please? Right? So being stressed is let me go back and find the definition. This was really helpful. We feel stressed when we evaluate environmental demand as beyond our ability to cope successfully. That includes elements of unpredictability, uncontrollability, and feeling overloaded. Now, being in the weeds and pulling out of the weeds happens to everyone on almost every shift, right? When you're working in like food service, when you're in the weeds, that happens almost every shift. And she said it was just a part of the job you learned to management. But if I walked into the kitchen and said, I'm blown, that means a completely different thing. The kitchen gets really quiet. No one asks what you need. Normally, someone runs to the hostess stand to find out what tables you are running that shift. They don't even assume that you know this at this point. The kitchen manager, who would never get involved in an in the weeds solution, pulls all the tickets for your guests to evaluate what's happening and immediately assigns your tables to other wait staff. When you're blown, you can either step outside or into the cooler or go to the bathroom and cry, whatever you need, but you're expected back in 10 minutes ready to go. But for 10 minutes, there's a complete takeover. She said in 6 years, it happened to me twice, both times due to pure exhaustion at the end of triple shifts that I was working because tuition was due. She waited tables while she was going to college and grad school. So she says, stressed is being in the weeds, overwhelmed is being blown. Clearly, because when we think, I'm stressed, I'm just overwhelmed, I have anxiety, we think they're all the same thing, but they're not. They're not. I clearly appreciated that definition of those emotions. Atlas of the Heart, man, she started right out the gate with some doozies. But as she's going through all these places, all of the things, she also goes to some good places. Some of the chapter titles: Places We Go When We Compare, Places We Go When Things Don't Go as Planned, Places We Go When It's Beyond Us, Places We Go When Things Aren't As They Seem, Places We Go When We're Hurting, Places We Go with Others, Places We Go When We Fall Short, Places We Go When We Search for Connection, Places We Go When the Heart is Open, Places We Go When Life is Good, Places We Go When We Feel Wronged, Places We Go to Self-Assess. I can't wait to get into this book. I'm really excited about it. Just learning about all the things and the ways that we can take steps to understand our heart. Rumi wrote, "Heart is sea, language is shore. Whatever sea includes will hit the shore." And because she is so good at using our language to clearly explain these concepts, that's why books like this are so important. Atlas of the Heart. You'll want to check it out. If you want to join the book club, we would love to have you. There's still time to join. You can join at any time, pick up on the reading. The audio book for this particular release is not going to be available till February 14th. So if you are looking to get the audio version of this book, it doesn't come out until February 15th. 14th. I think it's 14th or 15th, but you can check it out on Audible and see. But if you would like to join the book club, I would love to have you. You can join up right here on my website at roneharden.com/contact. You can join the book club. You could also schedule some time just to sit with me for 30 minutes. We would have coffee and we would talk about if you have a story idea that you would like to flesh out like Dylan did. Maybe you already have a story that you've written and you would really like to take the next steps to get that published. Or you just need some help with your words in writing something. Or maybe you would like to ask me to write something for you. Whatever those needs are, you can contact me right here and drop me a note. Let me know how I can help, but definitely join the book club because I would love to have you there. Remember, things that we do flow out of our heart that create our stories that we put out in the world, just like Dylan did, sharing his story and his heart with the world. You have something to share too. And I would love to see what that is. I'm sure others would love to see what that is too. But more importantly, if I can help you get that story fleshed out, share it with you. Share your awesome, and you never know the people you can touch and the difference you can make. Look at what Dylan did writing his book. He's encouraged other children to want to tell their stories. That should be the reason why you share your stuff, is to encourage others to do the same. I hope I've encouraged you this morning. I love getting to talk about all the great stories. You can find more of my stories, catch up on any broadcast that you've missed on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Rane. As always, you can find me on social media at Rane Harden. I'd love to connect with you, hear your story, share yours, and we'll share some coffee together. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everyone on the live broadcast who was here, popping in to say hello. So great to have you here. Stay warm and safe wherever you are. I'd love to have you back next week when we're going to talk about romance. Yes, we are, because love will be in the air. It'll be Valentine's Day weekend, and I'm going to be sharing some great ideas for gifts in books and stories, great love stories, maybe great murder mystery stories if you love those too. But some great gift ideas to send your loved one or share with someone you love. Always share a gift of a story. You never know the difference it can make. Guys, take care. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here next Saturday for more stories from the editor's desk. Take care.